Hi fantastic people, welcome to Mr. Radden, mental well-being with a twist. I wanted to say a few things before I got onto the main subject of this video. First, I have been experimenting with microphones. The last microphone I tried was a Bluetooth one, and frankly the sound was pretty rubbish. So for this video and for the previous one, I tried a wired one, which I believe does help me to sound more clear than I did before. However, I think that because I live on the main road, the sound of the cars driving by could also be getting picked up a bit by the mic. So apologies in advance. Maybe you don't notice it, maybe you do. But anyway, I thought I'd just briefly mention that. Second thing I wanted to mention was to all those of you who have subscribed so far, thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate it. And the third thing is I've already had quite a bit of, shall we say, feedback from my video so far, and my work has been appreciated. Some very nice comments. So to those of you who have given your replies, thank you for your support. Again, I really appreciate it. It's very good of you. So now for the main subject of this video, I'm going to go for an article I came across of a girl who's suffered from OCD and intrusive thoughts for a while. And as always, anyone else I discuss in this video remains anonymous. So for this, I will be saying her name is Kim. That's not her actual name. But I thought it was a pretty good experience. Very relatable. And hopefully this video won't go on for too long. I appreciate that people are busy. So it begins. Shiny rocks. OCD is always in my pocket, even or grown up. When I was 8 years old, I liked to hunt for rocks, jagged rocks, round rocks, but especially shiny rocks. Grasping these earthly treasures in my tiny hands, I felt grounded and calm. I focused on the angular edges, the smooth faces, the shiny reflections. Lugging the cumbersome rocks in my sagging sweatshirt pocket, I delivered them to my woodsy fort, where my glimmering collection grew. The use of these rocks was unimportant. Perhaps they would appear in my dad's stocking as an ill-planned Christmas present, or serve as a key ingredient in a mud pie, or simply be tossed back into nature. These finds and the acts of hunting for them represented something important to me. The rocks were real, and they reminded me of the world that spun outside of my creatively chaotic mind. Interesting way to put it. She goes on. As a child with severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, I tended to grasp onto anything real that would yank me away from my thoughts and back into the world. And that's something I've had to do with myself a few times in the past. These efforts varied from tap dancing to cooking to cuddling my dog to making some of those aforementioned mud pies. I was thriving, happy kid with loving parents, the best sisters, and terrifying thoughts that riddled my brain. I could make an origami crane, win any wheelbarrow race, list all 23 helping verbs, and knock on my leg 17 times to keep my mum alive. I was basically a superhero. It wasn't until I was 12 years old that I finally discovered my superhero powers to a pediatric psychiatrist, almost lost the word there, who instead of festooning me with a cape, diagnosed me with obsessive-compulsive disorder. You see, among the tap dancing, cooking, dog cuddling and mud pie making, it was becoming quite difficult to find time in the day to keep my mum alive. I was relieved to find out that my massive responsibilities to protect the world were in fact, pardon me, compulsions that manifested from my disorder. However, I harboured shame for my untamed mind and did not share the diagnosis with anyone outside of my family, not until adulthood, when I began to notice, surprised, that others were seemingly imperfect as well. She goes on. Upon first sharing my experience with obsessive-compulsive disorder publicly at the age of 26, I have received an array of messages conveying shock and disbelief that someone with such optimism had once been riddled with dark, intrusive thoughts. No, trust me, Kim, you're not alone. While I have found the praise surrounding my writing to be uplifting, I am left wondering how my story may have been received differently had I told it in the present tense. What if my tale of pediatric knee knocking had instead focused on my current struggles with OCD? She continues, it feels natural for readers to empathise with a young daughter who worries about her mum, a child who knocks on her knee to save the world, a girl who cries a little too often. As a child with OCD, I played the role of each of these characters. Now, as an adult still living with the disorder, I shared stories from my past to reduce the stigma towards mental illness. And right there, she does have a point, because over the years there has been a stigma towards this kind of thing. It can be scary to open up about it. And yet, I cannot help but empathise the happy endings of the stories I tell. Don't worry, I say reassuringly, noticing that my dad's face has fallen after reading my most recent piece. That was a long time ago. I'm totally fine now. She continues, I noticed the wave of relief passing over his face and everyone's faces. They all care. They love me. They hate the thought that I might be still struggling with the monsters in my stories and my mind. To reassure them, I present 8-year-old Kim as a martyr, distancing myself from the obsessions and compulsions that once ruled that young girl's life. In doing so, I am able to discuss my mental illness without discrediting my current quality of life. If there is one lesson that I have learned from living with OCD, it is that our collective definition of happiness is often quite fixed and limited in its scope. In our society, there is no space to be broken, content, anxious and thriving, all at the same time. There is no space to be human. We are either cured or sick. Yep, I completely get that as well. In society, there is, shall we say, a particular place for distinct people. Maybe you understand, where you have to seem perfect in a way with nothing wrong with you. Held or alone, rational or neurotic, content or fixed, fixed or broken. I am either a thriving graduate student who is independent and happy, or free of OCD, or I am an anxious 8-year-old knocking on my knee 17 times to keep my mother alive. Is there space for me to be both? Yes, she does have some very valid points here, I will admit. The truth is, I am thriving and I am currently experimenting with a medication to treat the intrusive thoughts that addle my brain. I am thriving and I sometimes cry when I try. Let me restart. When I think about my parents aging, I am thriving and I read the safety brochure every time. I fly for fear that the flight's safe arrival depends on it. I am thriving and I had a panic attack on a tugboat in Cambodia, during which I sobbed into the dreadlocks of a backpacking stranger. I am thriving and I have obsessive-compulsive disorder. Apparently, all of these statements can be true. Sometimes we seem to forget that in rays of sunshine, shadows are found. You laugh at my silly jokes, but did you know that my sense of humour arose as a coping mechanism? You value my empathy, but did you consider the experiences that have allowed me to feel your pain? You appreciate my childhood stories, the ones that begin with salty, tear-stained pillows and end with a liberating diagnosis. Did you know that when I write stories now, I am writing to my 8-year-old self? Well, that's an interesting reflection, wouldn't you say? And now for the last little bit of the story. Stones do not become shiny from resting in a wading pool, but rather from the thrashes and gnashes of a turbulent river, and yet we carefully select the shiniest rock for our collections. They are beautiful and worn, and we see ourselves in their glossy reflections. My question then is, what made you so shiny? Because you, my friend, are radiant. And yes, I completely agree with that. She does have a valid point. In fact, I would say that this experience has plenty of valid points, especially about what society seems to expect of us and how we are viewed to our peers and society. We are frequently supposed to appear perfect. Basically, I know I'm not. I don't pretend to be perfect. Do we always worry about what our peers or family might think of us? Yes, well, frequently we do, especially those who care about us. It's only natural because we're human. But anyway, that's it for this experience. Ladies and gents, if you have watched through the entire video thus far and got to the end, thank you very much for staying with me. I will have more experiences to come. I believe that they are quite important. And I will have some of my own again soon as well. But that's all for this video. Please feel free to share my videos, to like and subscribe, share the word. I appreciate all your support, I really do. In the meantime, ladies and gents, stay strong, keep going, take care, and I'll see you next time, all right?